guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Coach Cody podcast. Man, it has definitely been a week. I don't know about you, but it's been very hard for me to focus with all that's been going on since the inauguration. I kind of anticipated things to be happening quickly and aggressively, but there's always this kind of underlying hope that maybe it won't be as bad as you're thinking. And that just wasn't the case. I feel like it's strange. I feel very torn about addressing politics. I feel like when it comes to this space of fitness and shit like that, it's always this like, oh, I don't do politics here because we need to talk about nutrition and fitness and health. But being trans and health is political, It definitely, it's political now if it wasn't before. So how do we move forward, or how do I continue on without actually talking about politics? It's so immersed that I don't know that it's possible, because there is the health of, a good amount of people is potentially going to be at risk. We've got, cancer studies that have been put on pause because of some of the actions that Trump has taken. We've got people who are losing their jobs, and I do believe that having a job, having financial security is part of health. If you do not have, a stable financial foundation, your mental health, like that is the foundation of mental health. If you don't have all of the needs that you need to live and thrive, that is a health issue. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I talk about politics a little bit, I'm not trying to do it to just, add to the noise of the internet, because there's a lot out there. It's just that I can't find a way around it. And I know a lot of the people that listen to this are trans, and of course, we're going to find a way to still thrive and, live our best lives, because I do firmly believe that that is the best act of rebellion. It's okay to feel the feelings. They're fresh. They're here, and we can't just brush it off and be like, I don't care. Or like, I know there's this deep sense within me that keeps telling myself, like, oh, don't talk about it too much. You don't want to be dramatic. Like, we don't want to add to the content out there where, conservatives are just like reacting to, and they're like, oh, liberal tears, or, oh, these trans people are just losing their minds, and they're like reacting to them crying or whatever. So it's just like, oh, I don't want to add to that. I don't want them to have, like, they want to see us that way, like they get off on it, and I just don't want to give them that. But at the same time, we're human. We do have feelings. We're allowed to feel them. We're allowed to feel a certain way about it. But I think the biggest thing is just not letting it dictate our lives, and let them have, not letting them have the power to make it to where we just stop living or chasing after our goals, chasing after our fitness goals specifically. So I know it can be almost paralyzing at times to think about all of the potential, or if you're catastrophizing things in your brain, like I've done a few times this week, it's hard to carry on in those moments. But, just know that, again, living your best life, chasing after your goals, and thriving regardless is the best act of rebellion. I think we just need to focus on ourselves, our community, and we'll get through this. And yeah, we just got to try our best to not only survive, but to still chase opportunities. So also, I was thinking, on the note, I'm going to ramble, guys. I am going to get to a topic here at some point, but I don't know if you frequent YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, then obviously, or if you're listening to this on Spotify, There is a good chunk of YouTube creators that all of their content is dedicated to reacting to like trans TikTok or trans YouTube or whatever. Uh, and they would have like no content if it was not for trans people. I feel like, there's even, uh, I see gays out there that it's almost like they ran out of content. And so they just decided, hey, in order to get more attention and to keep the content going in a lazy fashion, so I don't have to like think that much, I am just going to create content about trans people, reacting to trans people. And yeah, it's, in my opinion, very lazy. How long can you just talk about trans people before coming up with an actual, like, original content? Um, I don't know, but they're going to be in trouble. So, say they get their way, right? And this isn't going to happen, but say trans people just cease to exist. What the fuck are they going to make their content on? If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for us, they would not have any content. So you're welcome for that, uh, y'all. Anyways, okay, I will move on to the actual topic now. But just know, if you're trans, stay strong. Try to, be careful of the media you're consuming. Take some breaks. Get out for walks. Interact with people in person. Try to give your brain a break from like the clickbait, the outrage, there's no black and white on the internet. There's no gray areas. And it's just not healthy. People are just constantly fighting right now. Emotions are high. And then also on that note, I want to remind you that even within our own communities, try to remember to be kind to each other, because a lot of times, like I remember the first Trump presidency. I sorry, sometimes I just have a hard time grasping that we're doing this again. Uh, Emotions were very high for like all 4 years, and I think we had a tendency to react even to each other within our own community and create an even bigger divide within ourselves. And so just kind of try to be mindful and try to be aware of your emotions, especially before like responding to something on the internet. And just know that we're on the same team. Try not to start policing each other. We all have different ways of coping and reacting to things. So allow people to cope and process things in their way. Don't try to like dictate how people should uh, be reacting or coping with things. Everyone just needs some time and some space, and we need to be kind to each other, because again, like we're on the same team, and it's not going to help if we fight each other. So yeah, moving on to the health and fitness side of things. Finally, I wanted to talk about comparison today, and as the saying goes, comparison is the thief of joy. And I actually don't like that quote very much, because we're human and we are going to compare ourselves. It's just a natural thing we do. Even if we're not realizing it, we're always comparing. It's normal. It's just that we don't want to let that comparison stop us from, reaching our goals, or stop us from even trying to reach our goals. There's a certain amount of comparison that's healthy, and then there's a certain amount of comparison that is toxic. So let's talk about, differentiating between those, and, just making sure you're aware of when you're doing it, when you're not, when it's healthy, when it's not. And I know personally, like I have definitely, I'm sure we all have struggled with this. I have struggled with this, within my fitness journey, within, starting my own business, comparing myself to other business owners or other coaches. I definitely have done that a lot. It's hard not to. And I know when I was first starting out with bodybuilding, I think I did it more often when I was first starting out than from when from now. But I think especially with trans men specifically, we kind of have this, double edged sword where we not only compare ourselves to cis men, but we also compare ourselves to other trans men, and both can have their, you know, toxic situations. Because the the biggest downfall of comparison is that you cannot actually really compare yourself to anyone else because you are not them, and everyone is different. So you can't be like, why don't I look like them? Or I've been doing this and they're 10 times ahead, like way further ahead of me, or they have way better delts. And what am I doing wrong? That sort of thing. It's just like we all have different bodies and different genetic makeups and different builds, different physiques. So that's why comparing yourself to other people in that aspect is just never really going to go well. Um, and I think personally now, I probably struggle the most with comparing myself when it comes to business and being like, oh, like, well, I mean, for example, obviously, I hired a business coach last year that it went real bad. And I think it probably came out of just feeling inadequate, not enough. And I think that's where comparison kind of tends to grab hold of us. And that's when we start doing it. And so, like, we also don't know what we're comparing ourselves to. Like a year ago, I'm comparing myself to this business coach that was like financially stable, is bragging about, scaling their business. And now they're just like talking about being multimillionaires. And now I know how they got to that point. But previously, I did not. And so I'm comparing myself to this person like, oh, like I've been in business longer and they're way ahead of me. But I didn't know how they got there. And so I'm looking at myself like I'm doing something wrong. I'm not where they're at. But little did I know, the reason they're where they're at is because they're fucking people over. So the way they scaled their business was not in a way that would align with my values. So therefore, I can't compare myself to them, nor do I want to, because now I know for sure I don't want to be them. And I would never want to do what they did to get where they're at. So that can apply in other aspects of life and fitness. Like maybe someone lost 50 pounds in a month or something. There could be a few reasons. One, maybe they crash dieted it and it was miserable and unsustainable. Or maybe they just had a whole lot more weight to lose. And so maybe you have 5 pounds to lose and it takes you 2 months to lose that 5 pounds. Or it's been 2 months and you haven't lost it. And you're thinking, like, why haven't I lost 5 pounds? This person lost 50 pounds in a month. What am I doing wrong? Nothing. They just had more to lose. Maybe they did something in an unsustainable way. And you're comparing yourself to that. And it's not going to get you anywhere. So obviously, social media is something that plays a huge role in this. And it's not new anymore. Before, we probably just compared ourselves to our classmates, friends, family, whatever, which is problematic still. But now we have people's highlight reels just jumping out at us constantly. And you have to remember that with social media, it is people's highlight reels. I try to be decently authentic with things. I mean, I say decently because I don't share absolutely every detail of my life. Just for the fact that there are some things that you keep private, or, some things you feel like you're oversharing. Like there's some things that I would probably share, but then I get self-conscious that people are going to be like, cool, I don't care. Why the fuck did you just say that? But anyways, I try to share, my struggles along with my wins. But, I'm sure there's more that I could share, especially through the last year. But a lot of people don't. You control the narrative of what you put out about your social media. It's like your chance to create this perfect image if you really truly wanted to. Problem is, if you're comparing yourself to someone's perfect image they're putting out there, there's no way that you're going to feel adequate within yourself. But just know that behind the screen is a human, and that human also has struggles. They have their own issues. And chances are, if they are presenting themselves as perfectly as possible on the internet, it probably means they're struggling pretty bad on the inside with insecurities and not feeling enough. And chances are they compare themselves to other people as well. Actually, I'm 100% sure that they're comparing themselves to somebody if they're only putting out their wins and their highlight reels and not talking about their struggles. So, something to think about when you are scrolling through social media. Just know that it's not real life. There are a few out there that share more of their life, and that's something to pay attention to. But just be careful and put on a filter in your brain. Be like, am I comparing myself to this person's highlight reel? Or like, is this real life? And what am I feeling on the inside? Am I feeling not good enough right now? Is this hitting an insecurity of mine? So, yeah. Anyway, so let's see. If, when it comes to comparison to, it's just like there is that quite the emotional toll, with the self-doubt. It could lead to burnout, always feeling like you're chasing this other person or these people, that's on the internet. And you're just working so hard to get where they're at. And it just takes away from the enjoyment of the process. And it takes away from feeling proud of yourself and what you're doing and how you've got to where you are. You can only compare yourself to yourself. So that's why it's important to like track your progress so you can see how far you have come and not lose sight of the progress that you have made just because you're too focused on someone being like further ahead than you are. So yeah, it's just like every second you spend worrying about someone else's progress, that's just energy wasted that you could be spending on yourself and your journey and putting in the work and the effort, that sort of thing. So one thing that it can also do with comparison, especially if you're comparing yourself with a friend, this is something that can or does happen. I've noticed in the trans community a lot too. If you're not aware of it, it's like we compare ourselves with how far along someone might be in their transition, surgeries, hormones. Maybe someone's got a better beard, or you're wondering when your beard is going to come in. It can create some rifts in relationships, like things like resentment. We can unintentionally build resentment towards people that we admire, whether it's, friends or gym partners, things like that. It can create jealousy. And, instead of celebrating their wins or being happy for them, it can create competition and make us feel bitter or even completely ruin the relationship. When you're not able to be happy for someone you're close to, that's a pretty big problem and definitely worth looking into if that's something you've noticed about yourself where, you even if you like, I know you can feel a certain sense of like, oh no, like it's okay to have your feelings always, but just be aware of what those feelings might mean. And it could just mean that you have some more work to do. But if you're truly not able to be happy for someone else's achievements, it's going to be an issue because you're supposed to want your friends to win. You're supposed to, want to see them be happy. That's part of relationships, right? Supporting each other, cheering each other on. And that is a huge missing puzzle piece. And your friends are supposed to like push you, and it's okay to have kind of healthy competition as long as it's inspirational and it's not just completely toxic to where you feel like you're never going to get to where you want to be or you should just give up. So again, just being aware of those things. So speaking of awareness, that is one of the biggest ways that you can kind of break free from the comparison game. So questions that you can ask yourself when you're getting some of those feelings popping up is, uh, you know, when I compare, what emotions come up? Does it motivate me or does it make me feel worse? I think that's probably the biggest thing to know if it's a healthy level of comparison versus toxic. If it inspires you, sweet, fucking go for it. There's definitely people on the internet that I follow that I might have certain levels of, jealousy towards, but then I'm able to flip it and be like, all right, then if they can do that, why can't I? So you can use it as proof that it's possible. So instead of thinking, oh, how come they can do that? I can't do that. It's impossible for me. No, it's like, oh, if they could do that, why couldn't I do it? I can do that too. So yeah, just instead of focusing on that person's journey, think of how it might apply to you as well. So another thing to focus on, looking back how far you've come. I already said that. So just making sure you are actually logging your progress, whether it's fitness, business, whatever, have some sort of tangible evidence that you are making progress, just so you can, like, even if you do fall into the trap of comparison, you can come back and be like, oh, silly me, I've actually done a lot this year. I know that's been something that's been very valuable for me, especially when it comes to comparison photos. There's days where when I do get caught up in the comparison trap, I don't know if there's this app called Time Hop. Sometimes I'll open Time Hop and it'll give me a photo from, I don't know, a year ago, a few years, it goes back. And it's been a great reminder. It's saved me many times from feeling like I've not made any progress or I'm just not doing enough. And then I find a photo from like 5 years ago and I look at myself now and I'm like, damn, okay, just kidding. And it totally just flips it upside down. You're like, I am making progress. This is good. We're good. Fine. And it almost gives you a sense of pride, and it allows you to have a moment where you focus on your own journey. So definitely suggest logging and tracking your progress. Progress photos, if it's fitness related, maybe it's if it's like a business thing, tracking your finances or your business growth, however you might want to do that. But yeah, so some of the things that you could do to kind of help yourself not fall into the trap is obviously, you can limit your social media exposure. I'm not a huge fan of just being like avoiding following anyone or avoiding social media altogether, because I think avoidance has its own negatives, because I do think that there is some plus sides to social media and there's some plus sides to, healthy comparison. So, if there's someone that tends to always make you feel bad about yourself, it just always brings up negative feelings, it's probably, safe to say that it's probably best to unfollow that person, even if it's temporary until you can like work on those insecurities and get to the root cause of what you're feeling. But I think that, in order to keep working on it, it's almost like exposure there, but you need to feel those feelings a little bit in order to keep working through it. So don't just unfollow everyone or get rid of social media completely unless it's like seriously spiraling you out. You could take a break if you want. I mean, I feel like everyone should do that every once in a while. So, again, just try to reframe things of, viewing other success as proof of a possibility. If they can do it, you can do it. Not comparing their chapter 20 to your chapter 1. You have to remember that we're all in different places as well. Someone could have been either working out for 10 years and you just started and you're comparing yourself to them at the 10-year mark. Like, are you crazy? You think you're going to look like them? You just started. So we don't always know where someone started or, how long they've been at what they're doing. So just be careful with that. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of other things that we need to focus on in order to not fall into the oh yeah, celebrate your small wins. All of them matter, all of them count. I feel like with the small wins, we don't feel like we're allowed to like post it to social media or even talk about it, but you should. I feel like we need to normalize small wins. There's people, you know, posting their accomplishments that are big and they feel are like newsworthy or shareworthy, but every small step is worth sharing. It's worth celebrating. So share that. You don't have to do all on social media, but even just share it with your friend or your partner, your family members, your therapist, whatever. Like when you share something, it helps build that sense of pride, as you should. You should feel proud of yourself because at least you're moving forward, you know? Uh let's see here. So all right, yeah, let's kind of look into the differences between, healthy inspiration and toxic comparison. So of course, it's inspiration when you are looking at someone's progress and feeling motivated by it. And you're like, yeah, cool. That actually motivates me to get to the gym. Before I was not feeling so motivated. Now I'm feeling motivated. So that's okay. But when it comes to the toxic comparison part of things, it's when it prevents you from doing those things, feeling like you're failing or that you're falling behind. Because as I've stated before, usually it's not the case. We don't know where they started. We are not that person. So yeah, different genetics, different life circumstances. We have different obstacles. It's just impossible to compare yourself. We're not all on the same level. We do not all have the same starting point. So one other thing that, might sound crazy or weird, but if there's someone you admire, like you admire someone's progress, reaching out to them and even, asking about their progress or just starting up a conversation, because you might be surprised about that person's struggles. Maybe they'll tell you about some of their struggles. Maybe they also struggle with comparison and y'all can connect on that. So sometimes creating a connection or reaching out to someone, if it's someone who's reachable. Obviously, I'm not saying like if you're comparing yourself to Chris Bumstead and you try to reach out to him, chances are you're not going to get a response. But if it's like someone who's, reachable on the internet, maybe you followed them for a while, yeah. Hey, let's start a conversation. See what happens. See if they have any advice for you, because I'm sure they've probably struggled with the same thing. Just know that even the people that you compare yourself to have bad days. They may not share them, but they do. I promise you. So yeah, all in all, just be aware of when comparison becomes toxic for you, and don't try to fight comparison altogether. We do it. It's natural, but just don't let it stop you from being you. Don't get down on yourself or let the self-doubt creep in. Don't feel, like you're not good enough because you're not where this other person is. Half the fun of life is the challenges and the journey and learning from the challenges and working through problems and working on ourselves. That's, sometimes not the fun part, but it's what makes you feel like a human. It's what makes you feel alive. And, growth is fun even in itself. So again, just compare yourself to where you've from your own journey and remember where you started and how far you have come. And I think I've even, I personally have had some people that I've coached that the comparison was so bad that it was even hard to get in the gym, just feeling like when you walk in the gym, everyone's bigger. I definitely have had these issues and thoughts before where you feel uncomfortable or you feel too anxious to be in the gym because you feel like you're the smallest, or you're not strong enough, and everyone else is huge and they're strong, and they're probably judging you, or you don't feel like you belong. But everyone started somewhere, and I guarantee you they're not paying attention to if you're smaller or what you're lifting. If someone is legit and is a kind person or is a good human in general, they're just going to be happy that you're in there, because the gym is somewhere you go to improve yourself. And if someone has a problem with that, that's on them. So if they're going to be an asshole, just let them be assholes, because you can compare yourself to that and be like, well, at least I'm not like that asshole. So that would be a healthy level of comparison. All right. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for tuning in. Be careful not to, compare yourself too harshly to others. Celebrate the small wins, because you are good enough. You are worth it. And there's so much more to life than just comparing yourself to others. So thanks again for listening, and make sure to subscribe, share this with a friend if you found this helpful. I really appreciate everyone who listens to this podcast. I guess one favor I might ask you, if you are listening to this and you have the time, if you would leave me a comment on either Spotify or YouTube, just let me know you're listening. Sometimes I don't know who's listening until I get a comment or something, or I don't know if things are helpful, or if there's any topic suggestions. I want this podcast to be something that is helpful for you. So I appreciate any engagement or interaction that you guys decide to share with me, and I would love it. Any feedback is gladly welcomed. And again, I just appreciate you, and I hope that this week has been a better week for you. I know we have a long few years, to be specific, ahead of us, and but we're gonna survive. We're gonna make it through, and we're going to live our best lives regardless. So peace out, guys. I will talk to you next time.